Hey everyone, I'm Rob Hall, and today we are going to see how the new iPhone 12 Pro Max compares to a full-frame Sony A7. I'm just kidding. We are not going to do any garbage like that. Photokina, the 70-year-old biannual event that could best be described as the CES of photography, has been canceled indefinitely. Not a shocker, as the event has had a rocky last few years. The last Photokina was in the fall of 2018. They planned to go annual in the spring of 2019, but canceled due to the short news cycle. 2020 was canceled due to, well, 2020, and recently it's been announced that Photokina has been canceled indefinitely, citing a shrinking of the photography market. Now, I've been to quite a few expos. My first was Imaging USA in 2014, where I was able to handle tons of print products for the first time and see a lot of new services that could help my young business. Since then, I've been to WPPI almost every year, and I went to Photokina in 2018, not knowing it would be the last one. Every one of these trips has been amazing for me on a personal and professional level. From my first one, where I left so motivated and had such an information boost about resources available to me, to WPPI in 2020, where I split the days between recording podcast episodes with industry leaders and hanging out face-to-face with friends from around the world. Remember face-to-face? So to say I'm saddened to hear that Photokina has been canceled indefinitely is an understatement. But taking more time with this news and looking at it objectively, it's probably for the best. I also think for a number of reasons, this will probably be the story for pretty much every photography expo we know. Expos used to be the place for announcements. This made sense in the past, to announce new products and services when everyone is there physically to witness it. The internet has changed how news makes it around the world. Nowadays, we have internet rumors, then leaks, and then announcements that an announcement is coming. Then manufacturers may confirm a leak or organize one. Before the product is even announced, many have already decided whether or not they are going to pre-order a product. There is absolutely no utility in announcing a product at an expo these days, because the press will find you regardless of the scale of your audience. I experienced this firsthand at Photokina, where we had an easier time learning about the Panasonic full frame announcement from our hotel room than we did at the Panasonic booth in the expo. The coverage online was simply more complete and more available. This news cycle has also diminished the value of an expo to imaging brands. It used to be that sales were made with the one-on-one pitches in a showroom floor, but that's just not how most people shop anymore. Increasingly, people are more reliant on using the internet for research to make a purchase, and it's most likely they'll make that purchase online from their favorite retailer, not wait for the next expo. So if the brand doesn't make significant sales at the expo, and they reach a fraction of the people that they do online, what is the point for them to take part in the expo? Why would any brand shell out a massive amount of money to reserve a spot, build a booth, ship products, train reps, and hire models? If there's no ROI, brands are going to drop out. And that's exactly what's happening at these expos. In 2019, Nikon, Olympus, Leica, and Fujifilm all announced they would not be taking part in Photokina 2020. This is well before the event was formally canceled. When I went to Photo Plus last year, Sony did something that could be called egregious, unprecedented, smart, or hilarious, depending on your viewpoint. Sony pulled out of Photo Plus, so they had no booth or advertising presence inside the expo. But then, they rented out a building like a block away and plastered advertisements and reps all around Photo Plus to direct you to their personal event. You could literally get a rickshaw ride from Photo Plus to the Sony event. Now, this move was definitely tacky, but only because they were one of the first to do something at this scale. When I look at it from a business perspective, I don't blame them at all. They probably saved an enormous amount of money and had more control, creating a unique experience focused directly on their existing audience. Now, pushing products is only half of the expo experience. Well, maybe not Photokina, that's pretty much all that happens at Photokina. Many expos have a strong educational focus as well. WPPI and Imaging USA are the two biggest standout examples of this in the US. Expo education in recent years has dwindled in usefulness as well. First, the rapid expansion of photography in the digital era led to a surge in people jumping into the industry. This led to expos being flooded with amateurs, and the education level dropped down to match. The last time I attempted going to a photography technique class at an expo was in 2018, and I only lasted 20 minutes before I just ended up walking out. It's not that the presentation was bad, it was just designed for amateurs, and therefore it was nothing new to me specifically. My only chance for learning was in attending non-photography classes on SEO or marketing. Even at these non-photography courses where there was opportunity for me to learn, I just couldn't stand the format of the presentations. I found I would much rather seek out courses on these topics digitally to then tackle on my own schedule. Just like when it comes to researching a product, the internet is undefeated. Digital presentations have so many benefits that an in-person course can't compete with. They fit into your schedule however you want. They can be paused and you can go back when you miss something. They can be revisited at a later date to brush up. They are generally more clear and concise as the presenter has the power of editing, and a digital presentation can have way more production value. The only pro to in-person education is a small window to ask questions and maybe some hands-on opportunities depending on the format. All this to say, it's hard to justify getting on a plane to learn when we have SLR Lounge, ProEDU, Flurin, Skillshare, Creative Live, etc. Side note, I just need to give a massive shout out to some of these digital programs. I've been digging through all the Pro SLR Lounge membership courses, and it is hands down the best information I've ever seen on running a wedding or portrait photography business. And Flurin's editing and retouching courses have turned my wife from an amateur in Photoshop to a really good retoucher with minimal hours invested. Beyond these in-depth courses, independent publishing is at an all-time high. Just like brands can't justify appeasing every photographer with the same offerings, the same goes for education. Nowadays, it's easier than ever to find someone producing educational or inspirational content that really helps to push you forward. I know I personally swoon over Gerald Undone's content.
Collapse on my chest, you impenetrable barrier.
The guy just speaks my language when it comes to analyzing equipment or sharing a technical approach. It's easier than ever to find someone sharing information you need in a way that makes sense to you. With all of this, we are seeing both ends of the expo experience come crashing down. There is no point for a brand to hold on to a release until a big expo because everyone gets their news digitally. There is no ROI for a brand to be at the expo because sales have been diminished in a shrinking market that is mostly online. When brands pull out in response to these diminished returns, the expo is forced to push the cost onto remaining brands or the attendees, pushing more of each away. Attendees are receiving less of an experience on the expo floor with this reduced brand exposure, and the education pales in comparison to what anyone can experience using only their phone. It's for all of these reasons that I'm not at all surprised to see the photography expo fall from grace. I think in the next year we will see most events canceled, obviously due to the ongoing pandemic, but the reality is the pandemic is simply fuel and expos have long been on fire. It's irrational to think these expos should continue when really it's a waste of physical resources and human effort. I think we will continue to see a rise in community events that demand less travel and accommodations, as well as camera brand events where brands can make deeper connections to their existing fan base. The one thing I'll greatly miss at photography expos is the people. When I think back to Photokina, it was special because I was there with Francisco and Chris Berry.
What is the name of the brand?
Godax.
When I think of Photo Plus, I remember interviewing industry leaders like Charmi Patel and Joel Grimes for the High ISO podcast, or getting Korean barbecue at 3 a.m. with the Bald and Beautiful crew. When I think about WPPI, I think about shooting with Events and Alex, or letting my Detroit friends know that I'm lost by sending them a drunk text of me next to a slot machine. Yeah, that'll help them find me. I hope, if only for the social experience, that our leading expos can reinvent themselves to be more relevant to today's photography industry. Curiously, like 5 minutes before I started recording this video, WPPI announced they are moving their annual conference from March to August. August, when most of the country of wedding photographers are knee-deep in edits, emails, and doubleheader weekends. August, when the average high temperature in Vegas is 105 degrees. I don't know how that's going to go, but I'm glad to see WPPI is optimistic about their event. Anyways, let me know what you guys think is going to happen with expos in the future. Do you think they're going to be something of the past? Do you think that they're going to be able to reinvent themselves so that we can continue to go to these events every year? I personally just don't see a lot of opportunity for them to continue existing, but I kind of hope I'm wrong. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this discussion. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe if you want to see more of my videos. And until next time, keep on shooting.